Day 2 of Rio+20, the largest and high-level United Nations conference on sustainable development, added more voices from world leaders, urging an imperative kickstart to build a sustainable economic, social, and environmental future.
Society, the economy, and nature are inextricably tied, and thus we need a new model of development which would allow for the well-being of society without excessive weight being brought to bear on the environment. The interests of the economy and saving the environment must be balanced and must be guided by the long-term prospects.
We need to involve businesses more. Government cannot do this alone. There is increasing recognition among major companies that using resources sustainably is in their own interests. That is why it is so important that Rio has recognized the role of business sustainability reporting. There is a market demand for this. Companies have been asking for it, investors need to know, consumers want to make informed decisions, and this should eventually lead to a global framework.
We meet at a time of serious economic crisis and political ferment in the world. Difficult though it may seem, we have to summon the imagination to balance the costs that we will incur in the present with the benefits that will accrue to future generations.
Thursday also spawned an announcement by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon telling the world that more than 100 commitments and actions have begun mobilizing in support of the UN's Sustainable Energy for All initiative, as the UN chief highlights energy as the golden thread to achieve sustainable development.
We want to achieve universal access to energy by 2030. Now, if we achieve that universal access, it means that 1.3 billion people will have access to energy. It means that we are going to have possibly 0 instead of 2 million deaths every year, most of them women and children.
We believe sustainable energy for all could be the greatest public-private partnership of all times, because we are aligned and working together in different ways than we've ever done before.
Meanwhile, even though world leaders are expressing an imperative to act, signaling renewed political commitment, there is general criticism that the three-day summit is falling short of political leadership, without clear and measurable goals, as Tuesday's agreed-to outcome document is being called an epic failure at Rio. As the world faces extreme poverty, growing food and water insecurity, energy shortage, and climate change threats.
There's no binding agreement, no measurable, controllable agreement. And if we haven't set any targets that can be monitored, we haven't really made any progress. But Ecuador is the first country in the world to recognize that nature is not an object but a subject, and our Constitution recognizes that.
How can we talk about sustainable development with demographic realities and survival and a state that is institutionally weak and needs to be rebuilt, given the situation in my country? I think that Rio+20 places the question of inequalities at the heart of the debate, and these come up against the ideals of justice and solidarity.
As voluntary commitments by various stakeholders become a significant component of Rio outcomes, there is consensus that domestic public-private initiatives may be the more efficient path to sustainable development. The conference will announce a global agreement tomorrow. However, the sense here at Rio+20 is that strong action may just come from the private sector, the self-interest of governments in promoting sustainable development, and from individuals themselves. Conference leaders and delegates yet defend the outcome document's relevance, saying it reflects what is possible when 191 member states are negotiating. However, environmental and political activists continue to demonstrate outside Brazil's Rio Centro conference complex, calling for action to save nothing short of life itself.
The developing countries have primary responsibility for implementing their own sustainable development agenda. There is no doubt that they need the support of the international community to achieve these objectives. In effect, Rio+20 can only be seen to be successful if the thorny issue of the means of implementation is adequately addressed. We must bridge the yawning gaps undermining the fulfillment of international commitments on sustainable development, especially in areas of finance, external debt, trade and investment, capacity building, and technology development.
With exclusive coverage from South News, we'll bring you more tomorrow, the final day of Rio+20. Reporting from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, I'm Afaf Kanja for South News.